And we are live with another episode of The Acolyte tonight. This is episode 8, titled The Acolyte. I don't know whether it's a season finale or a series finale. I didn't know going into this episode whether it is or not. But basically, we just all watched that 8th episode, and we're here to talk about it. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and we also got co-host...
Ms. Marauder, a.k.a. Sara.
And we also got a special guest for the final Acolyte episode. We got Marmar. What's up, Marmar?
Hi. How y'all doing?
I'm doing good. I have a lot of thoughts. A lot of thoughts. I mean, Sara and I have been talking about this show for the whole season now. But I'm very interested on your takes on everything that's been going on with the Acolyte. For anyone out there who is watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Yeah, I don't know. The show's finally over, and I'm trying to I'm trying to form opinions in my head. Marmar, were you looking forward to the show? Before the show, when the show was announced, but before it came out, were you looking forward to the Acolyte?
I actually was. I think from when it was announced who the cast was, I think I can speak for a lot of people, when that cast list dropped, I was kind of like, oh, Lee Jung-jae's in this, Amandla, Maddie Jacinto. I was like, this is a very stacked, diverse, I should say, cast too. And it was about the Acolyte, and they talked about the Jedi, and I was like, oh wow, it just felt like something that piqued my interest more. I usually watch a lot of Star Wars, I think, stuff too. I think it really started from The Mandalorian, to backtrack of my Star Wars, I guess, media consumption.
Yeah.
I think I was always a fan of, Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game, and then Manny Jacinto, and then Amandla, and then Daph Keen from Logan. It was just a cast that was kind of, I was like, who, why were they chosen? And that part, I think, intrigued me of how are they going to utilize these actors, and what performances they're going to give. So when it was announced that it was dropping, I was getting hyped and getting excited to see what kind of story they were going to tell with the Acolyte. And then when the poster started dropping, the one with the lightsaber with the blood, that's when I was like, okay, this is going to be a different story than other stories of the Jedi that we have seen so far, in my opinion. At least the ones that I have seen. I haven't seen every single piece of Star Wars media, but from the ones I've seen with the representation, or at least the portrayals of Jedi, it felt different. And that was also something that piqued my interest too.
Yeah. I was looking forward to this a lot because I wanted a different story to be told, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted something different than the classic good versus evil kind of fairy tale sort of thing. And my original idea, yes, I agree with you. The cast was stacked. I saw it and I was like, I wonder how they're going to pull this off, what everybody's roles are going to be. And then I thought it was going to be a little bit different. So when it came out, I was kind of on my back foot. And then then I just kept kind of, I don't know, walking backwards, I guess, in a way. My enthusiasm got less as I slowly walked back to try to see the whole picture. I don't know, Sara, how are you feeling before we even talk about episode 8? But
So I am famously a person that loves Star Wars, have loved Star Wars for a very long time, since I was a very young child. And I'm generally pretty positive about stuff where it's hey, I just like being in Star Wars, right? Just give me more Star Wars. It doesn't have to be, not every Star Wars project needs to be the best thing ever. I will say I do feel kind of catfished by that poster that you mentioned, because that poster went harder than the entire show. That poster went so hard, and I feel painted a different picture of the show than what we got. Because I wasn't really listening to the interviews. I was I don't really know that much about the High Republic. I read, there's a kid's High Republic book I'm reading with my daughter. It's a chapter book. That's very fun. So it's okay, I went into it thinking there's gonna be Jedi stuff with lightsabers. The trailers were so lightsaber heavy. There was a lightsaber with the blood, and then it was a lot more bureaucracy. And then I was well, maybe this is a metaphor for the Jedi as a whole, that I thought it was going to be cool lightsabers, and really it was a lot of walking through red tape. And yeah, I was definitely excited for it, but I didn't have any expectations until that poster came out, and then that poster set my expectations too. Like, they did too good of a job on the poster.
It was a really good poster, and I'm trying to look it up right now so I can post it up. But basically, yeah, I have. So I'm still processing my emotions from this episode, but not that it was super emotional, but I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I feel about episode 8 of The Acolyte? And I think that, yeah, maybe my expectations were a little too high, but I don't believe it met my expectations at the end. But I also thought to myself, my expectations aren't that high. Like, it's not like the people complaining over and over again that there are screws or whatever in Star Wars. Like, I don't care about that, right? Star Wars can have bricks and screws and whatever. I don't care. That's not where my bar is. My bar is like a good amount high. Like, there shouldn't have been a reason why they couldn't clear my bar in this show. That's my basic thing.
I think to an earlier point than I think either one of you made, but I think they maybe pulled its punches a little bit. I think they wanted to kind of, based on that poster, I think they wanted to get to a point where, at least for me, I think one thing I wanted to see was them kind of confronting these, the mythology of Jedi and how the Jedi have been perceived around, like, just in this universe. Like, I think with Andor, we were able to finally kind of see like the everyday people and how they were reacting to their oppression from the Empire. And they really went there and like really told that story. And I think with the Acolyte, they had that opportunity to kind of go in that same direction. And I think at the same time, they still didn't want to kind of, but at the same time, like, they didn't know where to kind of like go in terms of like, do we go all the way and kind of tell them like the Jedi are really not that, or not good people? Or do we kind of like, oh, well, they're like a few bad apples, which is kind of what they allude to in the last episode. So it's like, they're not all bad, but then it's like, okay, well, is it systemic? Is it just one person? Is it an individual person being a Jedi? So I think overall, after just looking back at it, I think it's just, it could have been more, but it still was good. I think there's still really good elements to the show in the 8 episodes that we got. But I think you just feel like there could have been more, and there might have been more to have like played with, but I think they held back either maybe for another season or maybe other outside factors that have nothing to do with movies.
It's so I'm so delighted at how quickly Andor comes up every time. It's like, every time it's like, Andor, and it's like, yeah, and I think part of it is this could have existed in the way that Andor is for like the birth of the rebellion. This could have existed for the birth of the Sith and like the downfall of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that Senator says, like, I went back, so I watched this episode twice. I watched it once like casually while I was eating dinner, and then I was like, let me go back and take notes. And I like paused it so I could write down word for word the little monologue.
I'm glad because I didn't. So I hope somebody one of you.
So good. Oh yeah. I'm a copious note taker. And it's like that had the potential to be, if that was the focus of the show,
yes,
that monologue from him had the potential to be not as good, but similar to like, I burn my life for a future I'll never see, like type thing, where you're like, oh, this is how hardcore the rebellion is. It was that with like, oh, this is how the Jedi fall type thing. But I feel like it was trying to do too many things at once. It was kind of like a written by a committee type thing. It's like they didn't trust Leslie Headland the way they trust Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy came in and was like, this is how I make an Andor. Leave me alone. And everyone was like, okay. And then Leslie Headland seems like she came in and was like, this is how I'm going to make the Acolyte. And they were like, and it's like, and I think it's more frustrating for those moments of greatness that pop through. Like, if it was like completely bland and I didn't like any of it, I would almost be less frustrated and just be like, oh, that wasn't a show that I liked, right? Like, it just wasn't my show. But like, there's those little moments where I'm like,
it's what could have been.
Yeah. Like, what could have been if this was kind of the way we were going the whole time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Andor always pops up to me because Andor was a 10 out of 10 show. Like, Andor knew what it was doing. It pulled it off. It you're right. Like the theme of like the everyman versus the empire, and like Star Wars lives and dies on its theme, right? Like, what was Mandalorian season 3's theme? Because I don't remember.
So getting Mandalore together. The theme was
the theme can't be the plot. The theme's not the plot, right? The theme is something like that's
like the biggest English teacher sin, where I just said the plot instead of the theme.
Yeah, way to go. It's not like you are an English teacher or anything. Which, for anyone out there who wants to know, she is.
I am.
But
Nice.
What was I saying? Andor. Yes. Andor knew what it was doing. Like, it had a theme. Mandalorian season 3, I don't know what the theme is. Like, Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6, they have themes. There's that's what people love about Star Wars. What do we think the theme of this is? This show, Acolyte. What's the overall theme? Because there are things that pop up, and I'm like, okay, cool. They're almost there. We almost got something. But then,
yeah, that's the thing, is there's a lot of like half themes, right? The like how good intentions can blind you to the consequences of your actions, right? Like that's a big thing with Soul. It's almost like each character has a different one, but they need to tie together better. Because and a lot of the conversation is going to be about like, did it stick the landing? And I think that's only a phrase you could use if like it's been a perfect performance. Did they stick the landing, right? But it's like they stuck the landing as well as they'd stuck every other episode for me, which is like I'm in full Summer Olympics mode. So like they wobbled on the beam, right? Like they did their turn, they used their hands a little bit, and then they stumbled on the dismount a little bit. But it's, for me, the finale was consistent with the rest of the show in that wasn't as good as I would have liked it to be. There were moments where I was like, that was dope. And there were moments where I was like, what? This can't be the plan. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, what do you mean you're going to let May go? But you're not letting her go. She's going to immediately be arrested. Like, why can't you guys just both go? Like, why are we erasing her memory? Like, there's genuinely baffling moments. But that's every episode has had moments where like that, where I've been like, what is this? What are we doing this for?
Before we get into the nitty gritty, what would we rate this whole season then? What is this season to you guys? Because not only what do we rate it, do I want to make this tougher? I would say, where do we rank it with the other Star Wars shows? That's a little,
Ooh.
Because that kind of makes me think. So other Star Wars shows, and I forget some of them exist.
Yeah, I have to caveat that I don't know. Yeah, you have to caveat the list here because I'm. For me, at least.
Well, because live action list.
Okay,
list. So,
okay, I can do that.
So we have Mandalorian seasons 1, 2, and 3. We have Boba Fett. We have Andor. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Is that it?
Ahsoka.
Talk about a show I forget existed. Oh no, I forgot it existed.
I did watch all of them. Okay, so at least we started off. Okay, I watched all
I just realized that I told you I was gonna forget one that existed because oof.
Andor's on top for me, followed closely by Mando season 1. Mando season 1, I rewatch all the time. I love Mando season 1. Then it's probably Mando season 2, Ahsoka, just for like, because I'm a Rebels head, and like that's just Chopper's in it. So what are we gonna say? Yeah. And then I would say Obi-Wan, and then I would say the Acolyte, and then it might be the Acolyte and then Obi-Wan. I didn't love Obi-Wan. I just like little Leia. She was the highlight of that for me.
Yeah.
And then it's respectfully Book of Boba Fett, which was another show that didn't know what it wanted to be. Right? It was like, they didn't have even enough faith in that show to do 8 episodes. They had to put 2 episodes of The Mandalorian in the middle of it, right?
Yeah. That's also the thing I feel that you guys touched on it. I think they meant to have a harder punch. I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, we're gonna do a rated R Star Wars, and then Disney backed up. They were like, no, never mind. We didn't make any promises, right? Okay, we're fine.
I felt the Acolyte could have been with that poster been a rated R. I think they want you can tell within was it episode 5, the when we find out
when they
the
killed
strangers.
them,
Yeah, that I mean, there were some moves there where I was like, should this have been in there? Does that make it rated R? This is when he did the and like other things. I feel like they could have totally went there. So
I'm showing the poster right now. In an age of light, a darkness rises, and just a smear of blood. Yeah, which is the red lightsaber.
There's no bloodshed, or there's no sign of blood. It was just like zoom zoom.
And that's the PG-13 thing too, is if you show the blood spurts, it becomes rated R. Oh, okay. It's like you can kill a bunch of people. That's my annoying thing of like, you could say the F word like one time, right? Yeah. You could say, kind of those kind of things. You have like one blood spurt, but not, but that, episode 5 had so much of that. And the whole idea of like, in an age of light, darkness rises is not the tagline of the show that they made. It's a tagline of a show that exists somewhere in an alternate timeline, but it was not this show. But it could have been, right? Like with episode 5 and genuinely anything that Manny Jacinto was in, like that was the vibe. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, but, towards him. I thought his performance was amazing. But with the soul stuff, and it was hard. It was hard not to feel this episode like it was like, I don't want to use the term character assassination because I feel like that's like a little bit of a charged statement. But it was like a Soul Patrol all day. We loved Soul until we find out what he did on Brendock, and then we were like, oh no, he sucks. And then he sucked in this episode. Like so bad. Like
he decided like, I want to be go dark side now.
Yeah, like the gaslighting of Soul being like, I did the right thing when I killed your mother because she created you with the Force. And I was like, what? That's
I want to be like, and
you took him as an you saw him as an outright villain at the end, because at the end I still thought it was just gray area where he just had to like speak about his emotions a little bit better. Like
they definitely positioned him as the villain in the end. That's what I kind of read it as too, especially when all 3 of them were kind of coming after him. Like, no one was fighting with him. Like he literally, every time someone came after Soul, it was to do something to him.
But it felt for me not so much like he was the villain, because I feel like after episode, like not the villain, but he's a bad guy. And she was saying he was nice and he's kind and he made a mistake. And it's like, I think the performance between last episode and this episode, well, it's hard because last episode was a full flashback. So 2 episodes ago, the Soul that we saw 2 episodes ago where he said, I have you, I'm going to tell you what actually happened. And the Soul that we get to the beginning of this episode feel like 2 completely different characters. Yeah. He's so defensive. He's so like, I did the right thing. Whereas I think the person that we had built up for 6 episodes is someone that would have been like, I thought I did the right thing, but I fucked up. Like it was that thing of, I'm going to bring up House of the Dragon again. I'm so sorry, Dimithri, where a character is faced with a choice to either be like, they realize they fucked up and they can either go, I guess I could just beg everyone for forgiveness, or I'm going to just double down. And the way Saul kind of pathetically doubled down, being like, I had to, let me explain our virgins to you, and that's going to help. Like, you're a prisoner on the bed, and I'm going to go, she's not even your sister. Like, why would you think that delivery would work? Like, it was like pathetic the way he was trying to like convince himself. It felt like it wasn't the Soul that we'd spend 6 episodes loving. Like he was carrying it on his back, and then all of a sudden it was like, but it didn't feel like, oh, the wheels are spinning out of control. Like I can't, like I didn't get that from it. I got more like I'm gonna stamp my heels down and say, no, I was the right thing to do. I promise. And I was like, everybody knows it wasn't.
I agree with you, but I also think that there's a nuance to Soul that I don't. Okay, in a movie that is more straightforward, because it's funny because I've been saying that like Star Wars is always just very straightforward, no nuance, and in this case, I think that they're like kind of like trying to figure out this nuance for these characters, which is good for them. But any movie where like suddenly there's a betrayal normally comes around like Soul will kill Basil, and like he'll be like, none of this is getting outside this room, and there's normally some sort of like, normally a death of some random side character that shows us that like, whoa, this guy's irredeemable. I never found Soul irredeemable. I thought he made a mistake. He accidentally murdered someone. Of course, bad. He should have turned himself in or whatever, but he did a cover-up. And he blames why he did that. His excuse is that it was for May, when really it could be, for multiple, for himself and maybe a little bit for May. But the point being is that like Soul didn't like go very like that. Like, I don't know. He just didn't go to the dark side. He didn't kill anyone.
He didn't do what Vernestra said that he did. It almost would have been more interesting if he did. Right. But I don't think so. I think the thing is, for me, if we're supposed to believe that episode 3 was him telling May what happened, it's wild that like saying it all out loud to the girl that you left for dead and whose mother you murdered in front of her didn't make you go, and I fucked up. Like that, I shouldn't have done it. Like, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing, but he doesn't say I thought I was doing the right thing. He said I did the right thing. It was the right thing, which is a wild choice.
Which means he didn't learn his lesson.
He didn't learn anything in 16 years of carrying the guilt.
I also think that Soul is positioned as kind of representing fundamentally what the Jedi kind of like want to appear to be in society, which is that, like basically saying like, oh, I know I did the right thing because, I was brought up to think that the Jedi were these protectors of this universe, and like anything that we do, even if it's by like a mistake or anything, was all in good faith because we are the Jedi and that's how we are perceived. So I feel like Soul was probably just drinking that Kool-Aid too much, and I think his actions definitely just reflected what the Jedi have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the shame of not being the hero that he wanted to be, there was like shame involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of brings up, as we're talking about this episode, what the senator comes in and he says, like, it's only a matter of time, right? Like, Sara probably has the quote. Yeah, tell us the quotes. By the way, actor is David Harewood. David Harewood was on on Homeland, and he was on Supergirl, and he played Martian Manhunter on Supergirl. So
that checks out.
Yeah, that does check out.
Yeah, he came in and crushed it. So he says that the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power posing as a religion, a delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable. Vernestra says, we don't control the Force. And he says, no, your emotions. You project an image of goodness and restraint, but it's only a matter of time before one of you snaps. And when, not if, that happens, who will be strong enough to stop him? When you're looking up to heroes, you don't have to face what's right in front of you.
He ate with that.
So good.
He ate.
Like, if that was the thesis of the show, but I think they backed off too much.
Yeah.
I think
because the first episode, all my notes were like, are the Jedi dumb actually? It's like
not evil, just dumb.
Here's the problem. To make someone bad, not evil, but just a negative quality of bad, you have to be dumb or evil, right? Dumb people are bad, evil people are bad. They're just bad in different ways. We talked about Andor being able to like go full steam ahead, and I think it's because they didn't have the Jedi. They never accessed the Force. They never affected canon in that way. And thus they're allowed to be like, it's this backwater planet. They like barely were on Coruscant, right? In Andor, but it's mostly this backwater planet. It's what the Empire does there. They don't affect much. They can kind of create from scratch. But I think Disney might just be like, hey, you're dealing with the Jedi. You can't do everything you want to do.
And I think it's also a matter of like, and this is going to sound much more cynical than I really feel it is, but like, you got to sell Jedi robes, man. Like, you can't allow a show to come out that's like, actually, the Jedi are bad. Like, the Jedi can be ineffectual, right? The Jedi can be flawed, but the Jedi can't be villains. If the Jedi are villains, like full-on villains, that's a problem. Because we've been taught for what 50 how long has Star Wars been out? 50 years?
70,
right? Yeah,
1979.
It's never 79.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
almost I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher. A long time. Many years. That the green and blue lightsabers are good and red lightsabers are bad. So talk about things affecting canon. If you're going to come in and go, actually, the Jedi are bad, right? There's a bad apple. It's spoiling the bunch. The Jedi are all bad. Like, that's tough. That's a big swing.
But it's not red lightsaber bad. That's the difference, right? Like, we're saying that like the organization of Jedi are corrupt, or at least like they're not evil, but some can be dumb. And we see it in this show. We see some dumb Jedi. We see some corrupt Jedi. Sure. Like Vernestra, she's not out there killing people, but she is covering up the truth. And then the question is whether should the truth always be out there? Are there certain things that are worth covering up?
It's the way that he gave her that amazing monologue that everybody listening was like, whew, like, fair hit, like, that's tough. And then she was just like, anything else? And I was like, oh no, he ate you up. You didn't, no. That's not you. The way it like went right through her, it was like, you should probably internalize that criticism a little bit more. Because it's only a matter of time until one of you snaps, and kills all the younglings. Like, yep, we know that happens, right? It's like if you have a prophecy. Oh my god, I'm talking. If you have a prophecy that you already know later on in the timeline comes true, you see it differently. Vernestra's like, no one's ever gonna snap and kill all the younglings. Come on now. Saul was one guy that made a bad decision. Yeah. But we know in 150 years.
Is it 150? No, it's 100 years. 100 years before the rise of the Empire.
Yeah, 100 years before episode 1. Yeah.
No, before episode 2.
Oh.
So 105 years?
No, episode 3, because the rise of the Empire starts in the Galactic Empire starts in Act 2 of,
and that's not a long time. That's like a generation and a half.
This is 80 years before Anakin's born. Right? If Anakin's 20-ish when in episode 3, this is like 80 years before that.
Yeah, because Plagueis is there.
Yes. So
are people going to turn completely on the show and be like, actually, the show was dope because we got live action Plagueis?
People are on. I'm reading Reddit.
People are excited on Reddit, but people were. I'm in a Reddit thread where people were positive in general, so I don't know if I'm just in a positive Reddit thread.
They are making some good jokes, like, but like, for me personally, I didn't know it was Darth Plagueis per se, because I didn't remember what Darth Plagueis looked like, but I was just like, oh, that's a Sith master of Chimere. But also didn't care, because I thought he was going to come back at the end and we'd get something. But like that one shot does not get me excited. It was just like, why?
Also, as someone who, to be quite frank, did not know who that was. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, like, who is it? Like, assuming that they will come back later, and then they never did. And I was like, okay, so we're just, okay. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I figured he'd come back in the end, right?
I could not believe there wasn't like an end credit sequence.
I mean, there was, but then
it was Yoda.
Yeah. I told you Yoda was gonna come. Didn't I, Sarah? I told you.
Wait, didn't JJ last week say that she was gonna like eat something.
Yeah. Yeah, she
Oh,
might have
someone
said
check
something
on
very,
JJ.
she might have said
Check
something
on
very
JJ.
violent.
She did say she was gonna do something very violent if Yoda showed
And
up.
I was
That's very
like,
on brand for
I was
JJ
like,
to
don't
say.
make that promise because he will probably show up, is what I
Yeah.
said.
I should
said,
have known. I should have known because I feel like they needed to connect it somehow. And then they're like, okay, we'll just pop in Yoda's back of Yoda's head, and then
Yeah.
now it's like connecting the greater extended universe, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm not a person that was like that stoked to see Plagueis. I was like, okay, it's like that makes sense. But it also makes sense of like all the complaints. It was
scene?
nice. What helmets? The helmet scene?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Interesting. I got what I was feeling is that she's so powerful in the Force, she's getting a vision and she's like possessing him without even realizing she's doing it.
Oh.
Okay.
I
Was
didn't know
what
what that was about. Yeah.
I figured that's why his eyes went black, is that she was like possessing him without even really realizing she was doing it, because she's so powerful
that makes
in the
sense.
Force that when she puts the helmet on to block out all the, because that's what he said, is it blocks out everything so that you can be stronger in tune with the Force. But like when Osha gets stronger in tune with the Force, like she's out of control. Like she's that much stronger in the Force than someone like Chimere.
I have a dumb Star Wars question. Not dumb. Okay, well, it's just like a beginner 101. Is that the reason why all like Darth Vader, like a lot of like Kylo Ren, like wear that helmet, is to be more in tune with the Force? Or I was trying to figure out, I was trying to see if there's a connection with them wearing a helmet like that, and that was supposed to be the connecting fact.
Don't think so.
Okay.
So with Vader,
I think
as
it's
far as I
looks,
know, Vader, no. But
Okay.
Kylo Ren
doesn't to look like Vader.
But the Knights of Ren have to come from somewhere. What's the connection between the Knights of Ren and the stranger here?
Yeah, because they play the Kylo Ren theme.
Oh yeah,
and then it never comes.
There has to be some sort of connection because those helmets are very similar.
Yeah.
And it's not just Kylo Ren looking up to Vader, but the Knights of Ren, who, again, the ball was dropped in episode 9, where they're just like, they're just there and they get taken out and that was it, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay. In the comics, they do a little bit more, but, you know. But yeah, no, I mean, I think just helmets in general are Sith-like.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking. Because, like, Jedi don't have helmets. Clone Troopers have helmets. And then Sith have helmets.
You see they do the helmets in, like, training, right? So that they can sense where things are.
Yeah.
It's another way that the Sith occasionally seem kind of smarter than the Jedi, where it's like, oh, yeah, if you're, you block out all the senses, like, that just makes what Chimere does more impressive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see a Sith burn his own eyes out to become more powerful.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Again,
if this was an R-rated show,
untapped potential.
His eyes would be gouged out.
Oh my god, wait.
Like, can you imagine a lightsaber scene just barely grazing the eyes?
Yeah, like Kanan.
Is that what Kanan did?
Yeah, that's what happens. Well, he didn't do it to himself, but he got hit by Maul and he was blinded. Yeah.
So like that.
So
but
if they
like
did that like ritually, that would be fucking dope.
Wow.
So what I was gonna say, it would be dope. What's stopping it from being dope? Like, why can't they have quality writers, they have quality actors, they got special effects and all that. There has to be an editorial decision to back up off of the choices that they're making.
There was just so many moments. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of been going on the entire season where they they're saying things that don't need to be said. I was particularly befuddled by May running up to the thing and going, the escape ship. And then she when they're about to land, they're in the asteroid field, which I didn't find particularly interesting. And then she says, brace yourself, Pip. First of all, he's a droid that doesn't have any arms. He's tucked into the cup holder. He's as braced as he can be. Also, you factory reset this thing 40 minutes ago. You don't care about it. Why are you calling it Pip? I think this is probably my biggest criticism. I think that Amanda Stenberg is a good actor. I think that they are a good actor, truly. The performance was not good for me. Specifically, the performance of Osha. I found Osha to be not a likable character, which was weird because she's kind of the protagonist. But it almost seemed at times that we were like crossing wires between May and Osha, right? Like May's being really affectionate towards Pip, and I was like, you don't have that relationship with Pip, your sister does. I almost feel like if we would have done a Luke and Leia twin situation and not Amandla having to act off of a fake version of themselves, I think it would have been better, because none of the scenes with the two together gave me any kind of emotion. I did not feel that connection at all.
I have a theory, and I don't want to have a theory for this. But I have a theory, and I don't. Two things. One is I think she's talking to Pip because May just generally needs companionship, and is relatively alone throughout her whole thing. So I don't know if she's had a droid before. Maybe she is. But I think it ties in with my bigger theory. And I don't want to have this theory because I think it also is, I can't tell whether it's bad writing or a bigger idea. What is the difference between twins, Luke and Leia, a dyad, Ren and Kylo, Rey and Kylo, Ren and Lewis Stevens from Even Stevens, if you've ever watched that show, versus these two characters that are essentially, what they're trying to say is they're one soul split into two, right? This is that has to be like a very unique circumstance we've never seen before. I think, I don't want to have this theory. I think as May starts easing up and becoming nicer, or I don't know, whatever, I think it forces Osha to be bad. I think one has to be good and one has to be bad because they're the same person and you have both the duality within yourself. I don't think both can be bad at the same time, or both can be neutral at the same time. But I think that one starts becoming a little bit more noble, the other one becomes more corrupted.
Like a yin yang situation?
Yes. Because they're two souls split. They're not twins. They're not dyads. They're the same soul. Are you laughing about soul?
Interesting. No, that's an interesting theory, but it's I'm like visualizing it like in real life. Like if you've got a twin and like you're a straight A student and then they are flunking, but then they start to do good in school and then you become stupider and you're like, what's happening? And it's like, I'm sorry.
I don't mean intelligence.
We can't have two smart.
It's their morality.
Why am I doing graffiti? What's happening? Like, well, your sister started behaving, so
it's
now
just the only
thing.
It's the only thing that makes sense with the switches.
No,
they switch up so much. I was so annoyed. But it gets to the point where May is like, no, we shall arrest him, put him on trial. And then Osha comes in like,
I was like, when did you have that theory? Yeah. I had a feeling they were going to switch like ideologies. I think that was always kind of where the story was going. But yeah, I think that theory would check out, given like, again, like, because they're not technically twins, because they are technically almost like a clone. I don't know, you would usually have a clone, but like, yeah, just like, it's just like, yeah, they're not two separate entities or organisms, because they kind of just like shoot.
Yeah.
And then
so like, for instance, as Osha is with the stranger, then May is telling Pip, brace yourself. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't, because they switch clothing too. So is it a thematic choice, or is it just like hats on hats on hats? You know what I mean?
I don't.
You only need to wear one hat to a fancy ball. You know? You don't need to wear two.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but
I'm just making up shit. But hats on
no,
hats,
that's like, I think Coco Chanel said that you should always accessorize and then take off the last thing you put on, because that was probably too much. So I think that's my fashion knowledge. I'm here in my frog and toad shirt.
Okay.
Deep fashion knowledge. I think that makes sense. I think I don't care enough about either May or Osha to investigate it, which is the problem that I have.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like when they're having the argument, it's like I wish that there was some kind of like thinking about when Vader tells Luke that he's his father and he's like, that's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible, right? And then he goes, search your feelings, you know it to be true. And then Luke takes a second and goes, oh God. And then you could tell that he's like, it is. And that's the thing when May is trying to say Soul killed our mother and she's like, nuh-uh. And I was like, shut up, Osha. Like, why do you behave this way? And it was so, the lines were so wild because Osha's like, it's all your fault, May. And then May is calmly trying to say, Saul lied to you, right? He blamed it on me, but it wasn't my fault. And then Osha says, Saul never blamed you. And I was like,
yeah.
Osha, the minute you woke up, he says your sister burned down the thing and killed everybody. Like, he's just spent 16 years blaming it on you. Like, she's like in it. She's been so bought in by Soul and the story that he told that it's become so true to her. Where I'm like, I would have rather it been a moment between them where it was like, search your feelings, like really think about it. You know that you can, we're one person, right? You know that I'm not lying right now. If the connection between them was built up more authentically, I feel like that would have been a payoff. Mm-hmm. But I saw May being like, nope, we're going to take you in and we're going to have you confess your crimes. I saw her doing that as more of like, if I just kill you now, Osha's going to hate me forever. But if Osha hears you say that you did it, then I'm going to get her back. Right. And then she does. So I thought that was the play. I don't know if that was just, but when she was like, made him say it out loud, because she seemed shocked. And I was like, you're not surprised. You already know this information. I think it was like, oh, I can't believe you just said that in front of my sister. Cause now she's going to fucking kill you.
I think it was that because they alluded to her already picking up the lightsaber. That was, we call it, what's the term? I don't know. We got
foreshadowing
blown off. No, how like he, Soul, or, like,
he like
chimeras, yeah. So when she picked it up, it was like, okay, like that's like even May kind of was looking to the side, being like, yeah. Say it again, Soul. Say it again.
Yeah. Say it for the camera.
Because
it's like, is that the vision that she saw? Was it actually her? And because they're one soul, she can't really differentiate between if she's seeing May or if she's seeing herself.
I think it's just that destiny is written and not written, right? Mm-hmm. Soul will die, but
how we get there is
yes. So it's one of the two twins, right? One of the two people who look the same.
Yeah.
You know,
I also thought the Chimera and Soul fight was dope. I think we used one too many slow motion shots. The slow motion shot when he kicked him, I thought was cool. The slow motion shot when they jumped off the thing, I didn't love that
because that was CGI when they jump off the bridge.
Yeah, where they're like floating. I was like,
it felt very like wuxia, like the Chinese martial art, which I think that's what it was. Even when Soul did the like when Shang-Chi wore the wind.
Yeah.
So I appreciate a lot of utilizing a lot of the Asian cultural like elements in that fight. And I think I said this too, like I think having Manny Jacinto and like Lee Jung-jae kind of finally fighting as two Asian men like in Star Wars is just so cool to me. So it was just a nice moment to have. Probably the best part of the episode for sure for me.
Yeah, that fight was very cool. But it also does another one of those things where I'm like, why don't they always just chop each other's lightsabers in half? Like, why isn't that the go-to move? Like, to know that we can do it and we don't do it that much, like, you've completely disarmed it. It must be a hard thing to do.
I always viewed it as, and I'm not a Star Wars lore master, but I always view it as they're fighting on multiple fronts at the same time. Because why couldn't they just trip someone with the Force? Give themselves an edge. It's because I think they're playing a push and pull with the Force as they fight, which, you know what I mean? Like they can aim, but because you kind of can sense where they're going, you don't want to aim. You don't want to be like rushing into battle.
Yeah, it's probably hard to aim for a person's moving weapon now that I think about it.
And not have it be known to the other person.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
You know?
Also,
Chymere's lightsaber, by the way, I didn't know that it did that. Like, that's how it did it. It was like
so
a
cool.
thermos.
That was sick.
It
That was
like,
sick.
I can't wait to make. There's just so many things that happen where it's like my cosplayer brain. I was like, first of all, I can't wait to make that. I know that my guy that I subscribe to his Patreon and he does all the 3D files. I know he's already making it. Bless him. And then Osha's outfit. I was like, give me the pattern for that right now. I want to sew that for somebody right now.
It was very stylish. It was very stylish.
Which one?
With the hood,
hood,
and the thing and like the cross on the
very
front.
chic.
Like, it was very Star Wars. That like it's just a little something different, right?
Yeah.
Like it was very cool. But that brings us to the actual coolest part of the episode. The thing that I was most excited to see. People can talk about Plagueis and be excited about Plagueis. I'm excited for live action Kyber crystal bleeding.
Oh.
That was so cool. And it reminded me of one of my favorite things in the world, which is Star Wars Visions. Because there's an episode in Star Wars Visions where somebody's lightsaber is like red and then it turns back green. He's like, oh, sorry guys, I just got too upset. Like the dark side took him over a second, his lightsaber turned. There's also a character with like a white lightsaber that like she has to decide in the moment which side she's going to go to. And then it turns the color as she's fighting. So watching it bleed as she was killing Soul, and then she powers it up and it goes from blue to red, phenomenal. Yeah. Like that's the idea of like taking Soul's life being the thing that was enough to corrupt that Kyber crystal and turn it red and turn her saber red was so cool. Like that's a lore thing that's like so delightful. I loved it, and yeah, it reminded me of Visions, which I'm always happy to be reminded of.
Which episode was that? Was that season 1 or season 2?
That's season 1. It's called The Ninth Jedi.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite. I mean,
I watched season 1, all of it, but I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember that. But yeah, I'll try to find that one again. Okay.
Yeah, there's a very cool bit where it starts off kind of like base and then it turns the color. Yeah. The Kyber crystal bleeding and then it becoming red. Very, very cool. That was my Darth Plagueis watching from the shadows.
It was
my
really
like,
cool.
Oh, that's a cool thing that I got to see.
I liked that part. Darth Plagueis part was weird. Shout out to Duck Dodgers 714. That's Matt out there. Matt's on Twitch saying it's probably best not to think about it much. Talking about the lightsabers and why can't you aim for the handle and whatnot. They fight and they're good. That's what he says. And he also says the bleeding part was cool. I've never been a fan of bleeding the Kyber crystal. The idea that like you have to, what's the lore with it, Sarah? It's like you have to literally like harm the crystal itself.
Pretty much. Yeah. You have to like break it and kind of essentially imbibe it with like, all right, I'm going to the dark side. Like I'm going to fuck up this Kyber crystal. And that's what turns it red. And that's what,
you can't just find a red crystal.
No.
Oh, so it's not naturally.
You have to break a Kyber crystal essentially that already
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. It's not natural
to turn it. Yeah.
It's so weird.
It was so I love Vision so much because to see like all the anime studios were like, what's the coolest thing about Star Wars? And they were like, Kyber crystals. In every episode of season 1, it's like Kyber crystals. We love Kyber crystals. The guy has like the jacket full of red Kyber crystals from all the Sith that he's killed. And you're like, you guys fucking love Kyber crystals. And I love you for that.
That's pretty cool.
It is a very cool anime thing. That one girl like powers up her suit with a Kyber crystal. Kyber crystals are cool. Maybe I'm just a crystal person.
They are cool. They are cool. I don't think like it'd be like, oh, my car it's not 4-wheel drive, but to get it to 4-wheel drive, I have to like insult it. You know what I mean? Like, why can't it just go 4-wheel drive? Why can't we just have a red lightsaber? I don't know. Why do we need lore behind just a red crystal? It's
kind of like it. I think it shows it's like getting a tattoo for your motorcycle club, right? Sure, you could just get the jacket and join the club, but getting the tattoo shows that you're serious. And I think that's the bleeding of the kyber crystal is like, you have to, and you can't like fake bleed a kyber crystal. You can't like paint it red and pretend that you're a Sith, right? Like you have to, it's kind of like this might not be true. It's almost, it's kind of a theory. It's the idea of like the crystals, like if you don't have what it takes, if you don't have the hate in your heart to break the kyber crystal, like then you don't get to be a Sith. It's kind of like a trial that you go through to get the red saber.
Right. I liked how they did it.
I think that's why the red sabers are so like when someone pops their saber and like it's red, you're like, oh shit. Because you know
this person means
they
business.
didn't just, you know, do a gachapon and get a red instead of a blue, that they went through a thing to get themselves a red
I would
saber.
love a non-Jedi to just stumble across a red lightsaber and never have to use it. But they would just use it to intimidate because we were like, we don't want to fuck with you. And then they're just like, that's right. Okay.
That's literally the plot of the first episode of Star Wars Visions.
Oh.
Is he's got a red saber, but he's not a Sith.
Yeah,
he just fucks up Sith. And
look
makes
at
her
me
a
writing episodes. Not
What?
having...
Watch Star Wars Visions.
There is some Star Wars that I have yet to.
The episodes are like 12 minutes long.
Yeah. So I like this episode with the bleeding because it simplifies the process. She doesn't need to like torture a crystal in order to do it. She just kills someone while she uses it. Boom.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also the significance of like, I mean, if you kill one person, you don't become a Sith, but like the choking to death of your mentor, right? Who was essentially your surrogate parent, whose approval you got more than, I mean, that's really, you know, that was intense. But I also thought it was weird for the whole Chimera thing where it was like, you must kill a Jedi without a weapon. And I'm like, you know, these fucking people can force choke people, right? Like, why are we so like, you could kill you snapped Yord's neck in episode 5. Like, you could kill someone without a weapon. Like, why is that such a big thing? But anyone can snap anyone's neck.
If they want to, yeah.
No, but I think
it's just about you can't sneak up on a jet, like, but like you can force choke.
But I think it's the difference between shooting someone and stabbing someone.
Right? It's all personal.
Effort,
yeah. I think that's the point. You gotta.
She was choking him for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was gonna kill him. I was like, oh, she's gonna let him go. She's gonna do it until he passes out. But
I thought she was gonna stab him with his own lightsaber through his back when he said, "Yes, I killed her."
Yeah,
that's all I needed to know.
Expecting that.
I kept expecting that this whole episode because I expected. I know it's weird and it would have made sense, but I thought they were faking the mind wipe, and that he was like, "Yeah, we'll let you go. We'll mind wipe you." And then when Osha and May hug, they talk about the thing. I thought Osha was gonna kill, Osha was gonna kill May. You get what I mean?
I like the way that they filmed the choking scene. Oh, that was a weird sentence.
You know.
I like the way they filmed it, where it's like not immediately clear who's doing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought that was a clever, and then like her arm starts and she's doing the thing, and I was like, oh shit. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
There was another shot that was another editing shot of like, remember it was like Osha and May doing something, and then it cut to Chimera and Soul like with their lightsabers crossing. That was another cool thing. I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah. There was some good stuff in this. It just didn't. I don't know.
It's very predictable, at least for me. I felt like I saw a lot of where the story was going. Like, I had a sense of where it was going.
Chimera was Vernestra's Padawan.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw that? You saw it as
I knew he was a Jedi. Like, he had to have been. Yeah.
But Vernestra's Padawan, like,
she said a pupil of mine.
No.
Like, a few
in this
episodes
episode.
ago.
Yeah.
Well, a few episodes ago, right? She said.
Well, previously we saw the light whip and we saw the scars on his back, and people kind of put it together of like, I bet that because he had to have been trained at least by a Jedi, but he said he was a Jedi or he was in training a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's got the scars on his back, and people kind of put 2 and 2 together that she whipped him at some point.
I didn't put that together. I'm assuming they had a big fight and they're falling out.
Yeah. She didn't just regularly whip him. No.
So he's old, right? Because Vernestra's old.
That's what he said. Yeah.
you know?
I think he's a Sith
Mhm.
vampire.
Yeah.
But you
now
know,
he-
the whole thing with Plagueis is he's looking for ways to keep death away, right? To conquer death. So
that's
is
why he's interested in the
Chimere,
virgins.
yeah,
Oh.
The same
Okay.
way. Yeah, okay. Kind of how like Palpatine is like moves from clone to clone.
yeah.
They're all trying to cheat death. Are we gonna get? I mean, how old is Palpatine at the start of episode 1? Like, he's not young.
Looks like he's in his like what 50s, 40s.
I would say
50s,
yeah,
60s.
50s, and then he just gets older and older, right? Like
He like hyper like he like expedited his aging in like 1 second.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's older than he even looks, and that his wrinkly appearance is his real age.
Yeah.
And that he hides it, you know? So, chances, I mean, are we going to get a young, sexy CW Palpatine in this show?
I swear to God, if they give us a kind of like
You're gonna, yeah.
I swear
They're gonna President Snow him.
you're gonna present.
I'm all for it.
Why not?
I'm all for it.
Everyone's doing it.
They're
They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it.
The hot young Palpatine. Yeah, I can't wait.
I think, I mean,
I would be
If-
delighted.
I mean,
we're
the track
saying-
record of hot like men in the dark going to the dark side. I mean, it's kind of that's where it's going.
I mean, that's on purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's reserved versus seductive, right? Like the allure of freedom. Because that's the problem with the Jedi is the Jedi are way too strict.
Mhm.
All Anakin just he couldn't trust the Jedi to say that he's in love with Padme, that she's having his baby, that he's afraid. I had a vision that she's gonna die, and the baby I would assume with, right? Like he couldn't trust anyone, and if he could, like it was only Palpatine that he could trust, because Palpatine tried to give him a way out of it. The Jedi, if they were more less religious and less shameful and or shaming, things
Yeah,
wouldn't have gotten to where it was.
That's what the senator says. It's essentially like, one of you is going to snap because you all have to be,
So you're repressing so much, it's going to you're going to explode. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a rubber band, right?
Mhm.
You're pulling it and pulling it, and someone's gonna, yeah.
Right. Are they allowed to pull it?
God, I hope so.
The
Are you saying
Jedi?
that I don't masturbate? That would be terrible. I mean, it would explain a lot.
I feel like that
but
would
I
yeah.
think they have to be able to. I don't know.
I
'Cause
think like
I
a-
mean,
think
Catholic. I mean, priests don't. They can't do that. Right? Isn't that a sin? Like,
but with the Catholic Church, as long as you go to church and say "oopsie,"
yeah.
then you're fine. So
Yeah.
I think it's fine as long as you,
repent.
I
Sorry,
feel like I'm in the episode of Fleabag where she's looking up if priests can have sex. I'm
Yes.
like, can Jedi masturbate?
I
Hold on, I'll look. I will. I'll put my computer up. I'll ruin my algorithm. Can Jedi masturbate?
Oh, ruined
all
my house.
I was gonna say, what I said in my mind was, I would no, oh no, I would turn that kyber crystal red on the first day. They're like, no, you can't break the rules. And it's like, oh
Finally,
man, I'm a Sith.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I just looked it up on Reddit. It says, "Are Jedi allowed to masturbate?" And the first reply is, "Are you going to stop them?"
Are you going to stop?
I don't know.
And then the next one is like a nice paragraph. I'm like, I feel like I could have left it the first one. They're probably not supposed to, but
It's like
tough. It's tough.
it's
That's
like the
tough.
Seinfeld episode where
Yeah,
like,
are they master of their domain?
yeah, and then
Yeah.
Kramer's like, I'm out.
Like 30 seconds.
Sorry.
A classic.
I can't be a Jedi anymore.
I mean,
Classic. That's a classic episode of TV that I watched as a child. I think I watched that when I was probably like 9.
You think that's wild? There's an episode of Muppets Tonight where one character is holding there's two characters holding two VHSs. One is Muppet Babies and one's a VHS of Seinfeld. and they bump into each other, and the VHS tapes get mixed up, and they're like, we have to air this episode. So it's Seinfeld Babies, where the plot of the episode, and this is Muppets Tonight, the plot of the episode of Seinfeld Babies is whoever can not poop in their diaper first, or last the longest without pooping in their diaper wins, and Kramer's like, I'm out.
Why did I not know that this exists?
Look it up, Seinfeld Babies. It's a real thing on Muppets Tonight.
I feel like that is the convergence of two things that I care very much about. Seinfeld and the Muppets, and I can't believe I didn't know it existed. I remember
that.
I'm
they
upset.
do a joke like, you got my chocolate and my peanut butter and my chocolate. That they do that joke, and then they show you the episode of Seinfeld.
Amazing.
Again, as a kid, that went over my head. I didn't know what the reference was, but it was
That's
pooping
fair.
in the diaper.
So funny.
Where does this show go? Soul is dead. I mean, everybody's dead.
Vernestra throws Soul completely under the bus. She said he's the one. And that was the thing.
To protect herself.
It did a nice little wrap up of, I thought nobody had seen a Sith in 1,000 years. And it's like, well, everyone who did see the Sith is dead. And she threw Soul under the bus, so nobody else knows other than Vernestra, which I don't know because I don't read the High Republic books, but I can't imagine people that love Vernestra in the books are like loving this portrayal of her. I don't know if this is, I doubt that this is how she was. This is a pretty tough episode for her, telling I guess those were like senators and the chancellor.
Yeah.
It was one bad apple, right? It was but it's gone. He's dead now. I think she says that he killed himself.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, like that's tough. And then you have the May and OSHA plan of wiping her mom.
That makes no sense.
Baffled by that plan.
That makes no sense.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Chimere erases May's memory in order to not be tracked. They didn't kill May because OSHA didn't want to kill May, right? Like the deal is OSHA will go with Chimere and be the apprentice that he always wanted in exchange for her life, right? Because May didn't complete the final task.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't leave without completing the final task.
I guess.
But that's the trade, right?
Yeah. She gets arrested. She can't remember anything. But Vernestra's...
She doesn't even remember a sister, and then Vernestra says,
fills her in. Yeah. We're going to tell you everything, and you're going to help me find. So, just a slight... It seems to me like it was a slight, like we're going to throw a wrench in it for a second, right? We're going to throw some stuff and to keep them off our trail for a minute while they try to get her to find, because they're like, she's gonna, and then she says, I'll find you. And I'm like, why do you have to find her? If we're going to find her, then why are we wiping her memory?
Eventually.
Yeah. I don't get that. And it was that thing of like, they're saying goodbye to each other. She's not remembering the rhyme. And I'm like, man, if I cared about these two at all, this would be a heart-wrenching scene.
But
I don't care about them. Like they tried to do like a No Way Home where it's like, oh, he doesn't. Dave doesn't remember who Peter is. And it's like, but the difference is I care about Peter Parker and I don't care about May or OSHA very much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Care about Chimere. The shot of them with the little handhold. That man, there's like so much hand touching when she like goes to shake his hand and he puts give the lightsaber with his hand a little bit on it, and then the little soft handhold at the end while they're looking out at the waves.
What does that remind me of?
A power couple.
Does that remind me of the end of Empire?
No, the end of Empire is happy. When they're looking out the window,
not happy.
It kind of is,
isn't it?
Yeah. So the end of Empire actually is happy because I might have made this up in my brain, but I have a memory of them being like, you can't end it on a downer. So yeah, they're all like together looking out at the window, but it's like, we're going to find him. Like, we've got a plan. It definitely ends like, that was a bummer, but we've regrouped, right? Okay. They're all together other than Han, and they're gonna, they're gonna get at him.
Yeah,
But this was more, I don't know what it reminded me of.
This is a weird twist on it where it's like, look at all the things we have yet to accomplish. More political assassination, you know?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The
I didn't say
waves.
that. Sorry. Scratch that from the record. We're moving on.
It's the FBI. The waves, yeah.
Too soon.
It was a cool shot. Yeah, it was a cool shot. It's just hard. I mean, it's hard. I'm never beating the allegations of being obsessed with Manny Jacinto, but like the way he outshines
Everyone?
like everyone just with his face.
It's because he's
like,
interesting. Like
he's
that's
interesting.
it's honest with his
Yeah.
storytelling.
Yes.
His portrayal is amazing. I think he plays it, the nuances of the character, like the sass that he has when the ship is coming over and Soul's like, you're gonna pay for your crimes, and he's like, oh, they're not here for me. I was like, like he's such an interesting character. I love he's got it's a little bit of the Kylo Ren thing of like the difference of mask on and mask off, like the little bit more vulnerability. He's a little bit softer. But yeah, the power couple staring out into the waves. It was a cool ending shot. I just wish I cared more about where the story, because it's like, if we're going to tell a story of the rise of the Sith, right, then that's a cool ending for it. But I don't know if the show set it up, right? It wanted to be two different things. When we were going through and walking through Brendock and he was hearing the echoes of everything that had happened last episode, I was like, I think we could have had the flashbacks put in here where he's seeing the things that happened. If we're already getting the echoes, I felt like last episode,
right.
like 7% of it was like, okay, we didn't need to get the clarity on that. So I feel like if we could have spent more time with Chimere, especially because nobody was really shocked by the twist that the Sith was Chimere, right? You didn't need to hide that. And I think that's the same thing too. It wasn't that shocking what happened on Brendock, right? When we finally got the reveal, it's like, oh yeah, they fucked up.
Well,
like,
it's because that episode shouldn't have been split up. It would have been a crazier reveal. Those episodes together, episodes 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But once he appears on a planet he shouldn't be, like, you know what I mean? The stranger, like, Chimere's strung up, and then suddenly the stranger appears, then you're like, okay, this is fishy. But that should have all been one episode. Where he, like, takes off his mask and everything.
The fight happens, yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely needed more time with him.
Yes.
Again, not
biased. They needed to.
Yes.
They messed up this script, like, with either with editing or rewrites or something, because it was jumbled. My big thing that I've been talking about for the past however many episodes is that, like, this should have just been a movie, and, like, they could have, like, done the flashbacks all together. They could have, like, done it in different ways than in episodes that mess up the flow of everything.
I've been saying too, I think I can see how it could be a movie, especially since the way that they try to break up these episodes, and I feel like they just didn't use up all the space, or just didn't use up all the time they could have, like, to flesh out certain, like, characters, or like certain like moments that, like, it could have been more impactful. Because even then too, like, I was, like, shocked that it was 8 episodes as well, and I was like, oh wait, we're already on 6 and 7, and then 2 episodes are dedicated to 2 different sides of the same event. Like, that's a fourth of the season, just dedicated to flashbacks, and I'm like, but where's Chimere again? Again, not biased, but, like, I was like, I'm like,
episode 7 was such a waste. It was such a waste of time. Like, I could have skipped episode 7 and been fine.
Like, you're telling me something that I probably already knew.
Yeah, and you could watch that last time on The Acolyte. Like, you watch that little flashback, you'd be perfectly fine with skipping episode 7.
Because we saw Soul revisit, like, the only 2 parts that mattered. We got like audio flashbacks of it. Him killing Anasea in front of May, him having to decide between the 2 girls, and then Vernestra got the whole echo of the, like, Kelnaka fight. Like, those are the 3 things that it mattered that we saw, and we got, and they rehashed them this episode. So it's like, what were we doing? for those
Also,
35 minutes last week, other than giving Indara her flowers and apologizing.
Yes.
Kelnaka and Torben didn't even need to happen. Like, I forgot that was even a plot point because, like, it does not matter. Like, take them out of the equation and
They definitely wanted a Wookiee Jedi fight, which is honestly like that makes sense to me. But like, I think just there's certain characters that were definitely underutilized, and one of them was for sure. Both of those two were for sure. I think could have been utilized more.
Yeah, it's like why are we revisiting characters that died in episode 1 in
Yes.
episode 7? Like we don't care anymore
right.
to know more about Torben. I feel like for me the hardest part was we see all the mistakes that Soul made in episode 7 and we're kind of turning on him, right? Like, oh shit, like that. But we have to imagine that in the 16 years since that happened,
that he's changed and become
he's
better.
grown and learned. We see him working with the Padawans. It's like, okay, like he's spent his life essentially trying to make it up to Osha. But then it was such like a hard stop into like I said before, like I did the right thing, like it was the right thing to do, like don't be mad at me kind of thing. I was like,
I have a question
it was
about
a weird,
Basil.
like, oh, you're supposed to hate him now, so we're gonna make him act like a dick. Like,
Basil and Soul, this whole thing I will get to, but I want to shout out on YouTube. We got Emil on YouTube saying they didn't even tell us how the twins were created. They didn't even tell us how Chimera met May and what the training process was like. They also didn't tell us what happened to Mother Coral. An incomplete chapter. I expected more. That's from Emil on YouTube.
That's a fair assessment.
It does seem incomplete. The people online are saying, how did the Basil thing make sense? Where Basil like rips out the core, like what was the problem there? That
I think he didn't want Soul to just gun down May.
I don't think he was going to, right? Was he?
He had her in the targeting system.
Maybe.
But why would Basil care about her because he doesn't like her, right?
We don't know because none of what Basil says is ever translated. So we never know. Basil could be a Sith.
No, poor baby. I did not want Basil to die. I was so scared. Oh, also, does Basil talk to anyone? No, right?
He talks.
But can someone have a conversation with him?
If you speak his language.
Did Yord?
I feel like Basil was just
Yord did. Because remember, Yord was all sassy about how most people just speak Wookiee, but I wanted to. He's like quadrilingual. So he
that's a loose end with the conspiracy. He can tell people what happened. He's the one loose end.
But he wasn't. Oh, yeah, I was going to say he wasn't there, but he was. Yeah, he should have died. I agree.
No, Basil. Don't kill him. Don't kill Basil. I'm just saying the story for the story to continue. We have to assume that Basil can't talk to anyone.
That it's like a dead language. That Yord was the only one who.
That like he can't have this conversation. Yeah, that Basil is essentially a dog.
Dude, that is tragic. The idea that Basil is the only person in the universe that knows that
what actually happened
out there, and yet he can't tell anyone because he's essentially a dog. That's tough.
It's like a dog witnesses a murder.
What if a dog witnessed a murder and it was trying to tell people and no one? Oh my god!
By the way,
how many dogs have witnessed murders?
Shout out to there's a comic.
Don't be laughing, but
there's a comic book that I just wanted to shout out called Stray Dogs. It's by I think it's Image Comics. It's called Stray Dogs, and it's about a guy who murders women and steals their dogs, and he has just a house full of dogs from his previous murder.
So victims. It's like opposite of John Wick.
Yes.
No, it's like John Wick.
Kind of in a weird way. It's like a serial killer stealing the dogs of the women that he kills.
It's so good. I have it on my shelf.
Oh, Stray Dogs is great.
I love Stray Dogs.
It's so good. Is it Image Comics?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, it's Image.
And the dogs have witnessed the murder, but they have short-term memory.
But they're also drawn in. Hold on, I have to grab it. They're drawn like Disney dogs.
Yeah, but there is murder in it, so it's like. Anyway, Marmar. That actually, it's like 6 issues. It's just like a self-contained story. if anyone's looking for more comics to read that aren't like bigger universes, it's so good.
Yeah, those are the dogs.
Oh,
They're like cute little Disney dogs.
Aw.
It will
Straight.
hurt you though. This comic
Oh,
will
yeah.
hurt you.
Oh no. Like emotionally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not physically. The comic physically.
It has razor edges. That's always my go-to for Image comics. I'm like, this comic will hurt you.
Yeah, paper cuts. You know.
You will cry.
Again, okay, so as we close up this episode, where is this going? I do not know. Is it going to be like the Acolyte season 2, or will they just say there's a new miniseries called The Disciple? And it's like, okay, cool. Like we get like a series of miniseries with different names instead of numbering. Are we going to see, I'm assuming, well, but there's the rule of 2. What is Darth Plagueis doing in the weird shadows? It's like, it's like, it's just like
His little like
Little
long slender
fingers.
fingers. His slender fingers.
Grandpa, go back to sleep. I'm trying to get laid here.
He's got his acrylics out.
That's literally what's happening. That's literally
He's doing ASMR.
It's literally what's happening.
Chimera's like, shh.
Chimera's, yeah, trying to hook up with Osha, and like Grandpa's in the back being like, there
Watching.
must only be 2. There must only be 2. And it's like,
I feel like
killing the vibe.
it's the main problem with the show. I feel like can be summed up in the title that it's called The Acolyte, where it's like it's called The Acolyte, but it took until the finale for him to find his acolyte, right? Like who, like why?
Not
What?
well. No, but Osha was the Acolyte in The Acolyte until
Yeah.
the end, where you find out that I'm assuming Chimera is an Acolyte. And then we got an Acolyte of an Acolyte, which is 2 Acolytes, Acolyte squared.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was The Acolyte, and season 2 will be The Acolytes.
Oh,
It's like Twister, and then there's Twisters.
Twisters. Alien and aliens. Yeah.
Glenn Powell. Oh, by the Glenn Powell is young Palpatine. What?
Oh, there
what?
it is. There
That's
it
how
is.
you get everyone.
Slam dunk.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it.
People
Put it on
online
the
are gonna
internet.
call him Powell-Patine.
Oh, Palpatine.
Glenn Powell-Patine.
I'll start that. We'll start that. Let's
Yeah.
start that campaign right now.
Mm-hmm.
After this.
Yep. Hashtag Palpatine. I think for me, it's like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a 65 out of 100.
Yeah.
That's a D at my school. D's getting
That
a D
these
for a diploma, right? It passed. It just scraped by. It just turned in the assignments it needed to get to graduation. Didn't love it. I'll rewatch the entire thing and see if altogether I like it better. But for me, if all it's given us at the end is Manny Jacinto's biceps and men that look like Manny Jacinto cosplaying that character, then it will have done enough. In my book.
Halloween's going to slap.
It does for Sith cosplayers what the Mandalorian did for Mando cosplayers, then it will be enough.
It's already inspired me, so.
Yeah.
There you
But
go.
here's the thing: you have to do the skirt, not the pants, because he
Of
wears
course.
a.
Yeah, you
You
have to commit 100%.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
there's gonna be
just-
guys out there that want to show off their.
You get a
guns.
and then get a man bun. You have
You
to
know?
get, yeah. Everyone has to grow out the hair.
The greasy. Oh,
Yeah.
Manny, I'm just truly delighted for Manny Jacinto. Like
he's the
I'm
best
so
part of the
glad
show.
he's-
and it's genuinely not just that he's so hot. It's the performance was incredible. The
Yeah.
nuances to the performance.
It's
The
what we
physi-
knew of him.
The
Like,
physicality of the performance, yeah, from his breakdancing days on The Good Place,
Yes.
we knew that he had that in him, and to see that translated to lightsabers, right, from Dance Dance Resolution to being a Sith Lord in the lightsabers, it's truly a win for Good Place fans everywhere. I've been running the Manny Jacinto fan club for a very long time, so it's been a delight, especially because not to knock, I mean, it's the same company, so take some, you leave some. Manny Jacinto, incredibly handsome man, super jacked for the Acolyte, arms incredible. The other actor, they used him in a Marvel movie where he's like surprisingly his whole thing that, oh my gosh, what's his name? The actor who played Chidi. He has 3 names.
Oh no,
Jackson Harper.
William Jackson Harper. Yeah, William Jackson Harper. His whole thing was that he was surprisingly jacked, right? He's hot but unassuming. And then they put him in Marvel,
throwaway character
as like a no-name throwaway character, and everyone was like, Chidi, Mr. Fantastic? Like everyone was like,
yeah.
But then they just threw him away. So a redemption of the good place in Star Wars that's a very healing thing for me since it was tossed away in Marvel.
I have to say that when it comes to Manny Jacinto, I don't find him good looking in Good Place. That's not because his face is any different. It's just that he's just super dumb and like he doesn't stand out to me.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I didn't find him like that. But he is in, and I had to look it up. He does play an attractive character, like the character's supposed to be attractive, in the 2022 comedy rom-com called I Want You Back. It has Charlie Day and it has
Jenny Slate, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, Jenny Slate and Gina Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And he's in Top Gun, isn't he, for like 12 seconds?
For like 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, very small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good on him. I want more roles for him. This whole cast. Yeah, Daphne Keane want more roles.
Yes.
I want to see Yord, the guy who plays Yord, do something because
he was in something.
It was cut too short.
Early. He was in something early, and I thought he was really good. He was really good in it. I have to check. He was, because when I saw him, I was like, wait, he was in that one thing I saw, which is a lot of people. I say that too, but
the one person for the one thing.
Yeah,
it's literally our content creator job to know these things. But
I know.
I get it. I'm trying to. His name is Charlie Barnett. He's in Russian Doll.
It might be that.
He's in Orange Is the New Black. He's in Chicago Fire.
It could be that too.
He's in
You. Yeah, it was You.
Oh.
Okay. Well, did we both say it? Okay. You. Anyway, as we close this up, Darth Plagueis takes on Palpatine as an apprentice, and then Palpatine takes on Darth Maul as this secret apprentice, right? And I don't know what happens to Plagueis. Does Palpatine kill Plagueis? I don't remember. But are these characters just gonna die? Is that kind of, then build them up to have a spectacular fall?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I like a good death.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's why Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Before we get going, any final thoughts on the Acolyte this season? I agree with Sarah on the 6.5. It's fair, whatever. There were some highs in this series where I'm like, yes, and there were some lows where I'm like, what? It gave me whiplash. Is really what it did. So that's my personal opinion. But anyone else have any final thoughts?
I think there's just so much potential for the story, and you can tell. I generally think that they wanted to go there, but there are other outside forces, no pun intended, that were I think impeding that, and it is what it is. But I do hope if they do get a season 2 that hopefully it has proven itself that they can be more than what we saw in season 1, and maybe it will improve on the constructive criticisms. But yes, I did find moments that I really enjoyed with the Acolyte, and being able to kind of deconstruct our what we thought the Jedi, always thought of the Jedi to be, and really going there. And yeah, hopefully more badass action sequences with lightsabers and fighting and stuff.
Yeah. Even though this was a 6.5, I think that a season 2, it's still salvageable. The basic storyline, and then you could work on it and make it even better, and that's cool. But Sarah, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it always comes down to are you excited or interested in what is going to happen next? And I do feel like this set up some intriguing storylines of the senator that is actually fuck the Jedi.
Yeah,
you guys are he's got points. I like that. I like the trying to cover it up. I am interested in what's going on with the Sith. And I think it's a bummer that they kind of pulled their punches so that it seems like the entire first season is a setup for like, and then we're really going to get into people criticizing the Jedi, and the Sith are really going to rise now that he has an apprentice, right? Where it's like, you can't have an entire first season that just set the groundwork. Like, it can't all be exposition, which is wild because we had things like episode 5 where so many things of consequence were happening, but then it's like we walked it back. Yeah. So I hope that if they do get a season 2, yeah, they do kind of listen to the constructive criticism that's out there, and kind of just stick to their guns a little bit more. It definitely felt like they were afraid to take it where it should have gone, and so they kind of backpedaled in soft steps. But I think if they would have gone, 10 toes down on it, it could have been a lot better.
Yeah. Question: does Anakin kill the younglings with a red lightsaber or with his lightsaber?
He kills it with his lightsaber,
which is blue.
I think it's blue when he kills them.
Okay.
There's that one shot, right, where the children are looking at like, oh, and then the whoosh,
yeah,
like, so it's definitely like the color's there.
It is blue.
Okay, just wondering.
Maybe that's how it turned red.
But he doesn't turn red in episode 3, right?
Or does he have a? Oh, you're right.
In the final fight scene, it's green versus blue, right?
Okay, never mind. It's been a while since I watched it.
Wait, does Obi-Wan have a green lightsaber?
No, he has a blue lightsaber.
Oh, so it's blue on blue?
Luke has a blue lightsaber in the first.
Yeah, it's blue on blue. They're both blue. No. Yeah, they're both blue.
Okay. Why am I not like?
Which I think part of it is that the transmitter was cracked, so the kyber crystal was. I don't know how I'm like the kyber. I'm like, let me talk about kyber crystals. The kyber crystal was exposed right when she was doing it, and that's how it kind of seeped in. Whereas when Anakin is killing all the sweet babies, obviously that's evil enough to turn your lightsaber red, but I think it's like you have to be in contact with the kyber crystal, and because it was broken, that's why they specifically showed it was broken. You could see the kyber crystal inside.
Yeah.
I also just like saying kyber crystal, so that it was able to like make contact with it, as opposed to like having a fully kind of like the wires were exposed.
Yeah. Doug Dodger 714 says, wait for the next version of Revenge of the Revenge of the Sith. Yes, Revenge of the Sith on Disney Plus. That they'll fix it.
They'll fix it. Yeah.
They'll
CGI it. Yeah.
Thank you both of you so much for coming on this episode. For Sara for co-hosting this season of the Acolyte tonight. But before we get going, Marmar, where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
I am Marmarisa on TikTok, as well as Instagram. I'm on Letterboxd. I'm on Serialized, which is the TV version of Letterboxd. And a lot of my content's just, these episode reviews, weekly episode reviews, and just occasional movie reviews, depending on what's out now. But yeah, I have a lot of interests, and I touch a lot of different fandoms as well, too. So yeah, that's where you can all find me.
All right, very nice. I love your content. If I haven't, I'm pretty sure I've told you already, but like you just inviting you on the shows that we do here, I'm honored to have you on. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sara, what do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ms_Marauder. We are in full con crunch mode for San Diego Comic-Con coming up next week. So Evie and I will be at San Diego Comic-Con. Our big cosplay we are debuting is Dune. So she's tune in to the Instagram. You can watch my full descent into insanity as I make a still suit for a 7.5-year-old. It's going good, and I'm almost done with that and on to the giant sandworm for myself. So tonight after this, I'm gonna go cut out a bunch of tiny teeth to attach to my sandworm costume. So tune in for San Diego Comic-Con shenanigans.
Awesome.
I'm excited for you guys with San Diego Comic-Con, Sara. And then I'm just excited for San Diego Comic-Con. Because I'm getting back into cosplaying, I guess, you know?
Yes, tune in for me helping Dimithri get his cosplay ready for San Diego Comic-Con.
Nice.
And so, like, got a couple of things planned. So I'm really excited about that. But we'll see how all that goes. It's gonna be a busy week. So that's coming up soon. For anyone out there who wants to follow me personally, you can follow me at This Is Dimithri on social media. Instagram is probably the easiest way to follow me. As every so often, I'll go onto a social media and I'll search my name and just see if I can find something about me that like I never saw before. And so I went on Threads and I searched my name, and it had to do with the game show that I was on. And so I was like, oh, I didn't realize, but like it was the coolest thing that like I didn't know until I like searched my name. But somebody said he's definitely the best player they've had so far. He seems like the first player that goes into the bonus round with any sort of strategy. And I was like, yes, that's right. I had strategy on that show. So anyway, shout out to, I forgot, I closed the, shout out to Ryan Galetka. Ryan Galetka.
I'm still trying to explain to my daughter that you're not like a multimillionaire because you were on a game show. She fully believes like, no, I watched Dimithri on the game show. He is like $1 million now.
I
wish. Like, take us to places. And I'm like, he can't take you to Disneyland.
I can't take myself to
because he was on a game show.
Disneyland's expensive.
Sure is.
Oh man. Anyway, for anyone out there who's watching us live, you're watching us at twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or you listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Pie. No, I already said Apple Podcast. Amazon, Music, Audible, SoundCloud. We're on all those podcast platforms. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us at The Keeg Show on Instagram and TikTok are our two biggest ones. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Threads, all that. At The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show, whatever. If you want to read Star Wars comics, find a comic shop near you and find some Star Wars comics. There's a lot of Star Wars comics out there. Comicshoplocator.com. And also support your public libraries, because that's also a thing. This is it for the Acolyte tonight, the Acolyte after show, but we have other Keeg shows that go on. Every Thursday we got Comic Talk. Most weekends we have the Keeg Talks. And then we have a once a month X-Men podcast that we do as well. So called State of X. So anyway, stay tuned. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram. I'll keep you informed. That's pretty much it. Thank you, Marmar, so much for coming on. Thank you, Sara, for being co-host.
Happy to do
Once again, I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and co-host
Ms. Marauder.
And this has been the Acolyte tonight for episode 8 and, all of season 1. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get the loot, 'cause it's the king.